Are we live?
Should be live.
Okay, good evening, everybody. And it's a pleasure having you here for something that is as amazing as this little tiny and sometimes bigger animals, birds that move your heart. Now in this pandemic, we need to understand that there's great experience in trying to see birds right from home. And we have a couple of experts, fantastic experts. The first person with us is Jeffery. He's Deputy Director of Audubon Society International. He's in charge of international operations. He's in charge of the Colombia program. Chris Bell, he works in WhereNext. He moved from, but we'll talk to him and introduce him in the second part of this session. But let's start with Matthew. Audubon has done great work in Colombia. He's worked with communities to allow them to live out of bird watching is amazing. Matthew, why don't you start and tell us what we're watching, what are we gonna watch, what are we watching when we come out to the window and see amazing birds that we only see during a tiny amount of time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ambassador, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to go bird watching and enjoy seeing the birds around here in Washington, D.C., but as you alluded to, even in Colombia, and every time I travel to Colombia, the bird life is just phenomenal. As many of you will know, Colombia is #1 in the world for birds. It's got 20% of all birds found anywhere in the world, almost 2,000 species. 83 that you can't find anywhere else in the world. 193 that is probably easier to see them in Colombia than other countries, and 197 that move in and out of Colombia each and every year, and about 170 of them are shared with us here in the United States and Canada. You know, I think personally that they are the ambassadors to nature. There is nobody out there that hasn't seen a bird. You may not have noticed birds. Everyone has seen a bird. So they're a really great ambassador to connect you with nature. And the more you get interested, the more you see how beautiful they are, how they move, their behaviors. They really are super special in many people's lives and many cultures. But what you may not realize is birds are also pollinators. They help pollinate crops. They help keep the food on your plates. They help control pests. So some of the birds eat mosquitoes and large numbers of mosquitoes. But they also help grow forests. You don't think that birds are going out there and planting trees, but actually the seeds they eat, as they fly around, they obviously poop them out, grow. So they are actually distributing seeds and really, really important for the whole environment. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to hand over to Chris, who is going to talk a little bit more about sort of the birding and Ambassador. I don't know if I'll hand it over to you, Ambassador, actually, and I think you may have a couple of questions for Chris.
Yeah, but let me start by introducing Chris formally. Chris is a very experienced birder. He moved from Great Britain, from England to Colombia in 2013. He has been birding in all of the 32 states of Colombia. He has seen around 1,250 of the species of Colombia, more than half of the species. That would be like 10% more, 12% of the species of the world. He has seen them in Colombia. He has discovered some species in Arauca. You know, he takes some treks down the Caquetá River, very hospitable places, just to go and find a bird, which is one of the precious things that birders do. He works for WhereNext, which is a production company that made the birders. He's made with ProColombia some fantastic video that you can find in YouTube about birding in Colombia. And believe me, he has the most fantastic job in the world. I envy you. Really, Nick. He was editor-in-chief of the Colombia Travel Blog, the country's most widely read English language travel resources. So he's very, 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 very experienced, and he's gonna talk to us about those stories, about his life in as a birder in the most exciting country in the world.
What I want to talk a little bit about today is birding from home in Colombia and the film The Birders, which the ambassador already mentioned. So as Matt already touched upon, Colombia is, as we know, the most bird diverse country on earth. But to put that into a little bit more context and just to show really the scale of the diversity that we're talking about here, if you see on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a list of the Colombian departments by number of species. 5 of those departments have registered over 1,000 species. So if those 5 departments were to become their own independent countries, 5 of them would be in the top 20 countries in the world for bird species. If Cauca tomorrow declared its independence and became a separate country, it would probably be in the top 10 largest number of bird species in the world if it were its own country. Quite astounding numbers. But a lot of us know that Colombia has more species of bird than any country in the world, but not necessarily that many people know why. The main reason that Colombia has the most bird species on Earth, to put it simply, is that it is the only country in the world that combines the Caribbean, the Pacific, the Andes, the Llanos, the Orinoquia region, and the Amazon. As you can see marked there on that map, those 5 different regions, each one illustrated by a particularly exciting bird from that region. You see the flamingos for the Caribbean, the little red-capped manakin from the Pacific, the trogon from the Amazon, the Orinoco geese from Orinoquia, and the Inca hummingbird at its nest from the Andes region. And what all of those images come from is a very exciting project, which the ambassador already mentioned, called The Birders. What is The Birders? In 2017, WhereNext, which is the production company that I work for, created the Birders campaign with Colombia. The Birders campaign, at least initially, consisted of 5 documentaries about birding in Colombia, 1 full feature-length documentary and 4 shorter regional documentaries. But beyond the documentaries, what the Birders was a campaign to position Colombia as the #1 birding destination in the world. It has more species than any country in the world, but a lot of people didn't think of Colombia as necessarily a birding destination that they could visit. The idea was to show them that actually Colombia is a wonderful place to come and bird, and it's a really exciting place. Now, the Birders was set on the Northern Colombia Birding Trail, which is an initiative that came about through Audubon. And we chose this region for the principal documentary because basically this area combines 3 globally outstanding ecoregions: the deserts of La Guajira, the tallest coastal mountain range in the world, the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, and the Perijá Mountains, which are the northernmost extension of the tropical Andes. The film primarily starred the Colombian birder and biologist Diego Calderón, who you can see there on the right, and Keith Ladzinski, world-renowned National Geographic photographer, there on the left. Featured some, as you can imagine, quite spectacular Colombian birds, including this quetzal, one of the most emotive species for birders inside and outside Colombia. But we also wanted to bring into play those 4 other ecoregions that make Colombia so special. So we filmed a short documentary, The Birders, on the Colombian Pacific coast, where we focused on bird photography, featuring birds like this endemic and endangered sooty-capped puffbird, a very sought-after species for birders in Colombia. We also filmed a version in the Colombian Amazon, in the jungles around Mitu, in the department of Valpes, where we saw a range of species. As anyone who's birded in the Amazon knows, with the low light and the dark forests, it can be very difficult to film birds there. But we were able to get some fantastic footage of birds like the Ghanaian cock of the rock, which you can see here. We filmed a chapter in the Colombian Andes, in Montezuma Reserve, which is part of Tatama National Park in the western Andes of Colombia. And the star of the show there was the endemic gold-ringed tanager, you can see here, which is again one of the birds that most international birders coming to Colombia are looking to see. And then finally, we filmed a chapter in the grasslands of Orinoquia, specifically at Hato La Aurora in the Llanos department of Casanare. The highlights there were, as anyone who knows about the Llanos knows, hundreds of species of ducks and geese and ibis and herons, but particularly this pale-headed jacama, which is not endemic to Colombia, but is endemic to the Llanos of Venezuela and Colombia. So again, another species that a lot of birders really, really want to see when they come to Colombia. But as I mentioned earlier, what the Birders was, apart from just 5 documentaries, was an entire campaign to position Colombia in what I believe is its rightful place as the top global destination for bird watchers. So that involved more than just producing documentaries. We also produced an original soundtrack with songs by independent Colombian musicians inspired by the songs and dances, in some cases, of the birds from the film. And we also organized press trips and fan trips to bring journalists and bird guides from all around the world to Colombia to bird on the Northern Colombia Birding Trail and experience it themselves. And that resulted in some amazing international press for Colombia. You can see there on the slide from BBC Wildlife Magazine, Colombia waiting in the wings no more. And yeah, the idea behind this was to really help move Colombia up in people's minds as a fantastic birding destination. And well, you know, I'll talk a little bit later about how that was achieved. But what I want to move on to now is the title of this presentation in many ways, How to Bird from Home. And about 2 months ago, when Bogota and Colombia was entering into this lockdown phase, WhereNext had a meeting, a virtual meeting, of course, and we were trying to decide how we could offer value to the products that we already have, the content that we already have, and offer something that allowed our followers to engage with birding and engage with the film while they were stuck at home, to become inspired to perhaps visit Colombia and bird here once we're able to travel again. And the result of that was our concept of birding the birders. What birding the birders entails is you can now go on our website, you can see the link there, wherenext.com/birders, and for each of the 5 documentaries, you can download a checklist which you can print out, and that features every single bird from all 5 documentaries, over 200 species in all, from every ecoregion in Colombia, and you can virtually bird the film. Anyone who knows a birder will know that we love our lists, we love marking off birds, we love checking off what we've seen. It's a big part of birding for a lot of people. So this was a way that we could give people that sense of birding in Colombia when they're sadly unable to travel here right now and bird here, and hopefully inspire people to come and bird here in the future. And again, this campaign has really been shared around the world, lots of international coverage from BBC Wildlife, from Afar, from Sierra, El Tiempo, Birdwatchers Digest. It's something that's really struck a chord with people, and thousands of people have visited the website, downloaded the checklists, and birded the film. What that brings me on to is birding from home. If you've already watched the documentaries, if you've already birded the film, a lot of people might be thinking, in Colombia particularly, how can I really enjoy birding and experiencing these birds from my own home now that I can't really go outside? And a lot of people maybe have the concept that to go birding and to really see lots of species of birds, you need to go off into the jungle or high up a mountain, far away from the cities. But actually, that couldn't be further from the truth. If we just look at the numbers, the Bogota municipality, the urban area and surroundings, has more than 550 recorded species. The municipality of Cali, that's more than 600. You have some of the biggest cities in Colombia that have bird lists bigger than a lot of countries. And just here on the screen, we can see a few examples of the kind of birds that you can see in Bogota. You have the summer tanager in the top left there, the bright red bird, the orioles, we have warblers, loads of different species of birds. And one photo that isn't my photo, but I really had to share, was the one in the top right of the Stygian owl, which has gone a bit viral recently, that photo in Bogota, hanging out at the University of Los Andes. A lot of people don't think of Bogota as a city where they can see owls, but actually there are many different species of owl in this city. But, you know, Colombia's a big country and some people have better backyard bird than others. And this, amazingly, this harpy eagle, a photograph I took in December 2019 in Caquetá department, is a bird in somebody's backyard, if you can believe it or not. And not only do they have a harpy eagle in their backyard, they have a whole nest with a chick in it. Very exciting. But I'm not just bringing up the harpy eagle nest to show off, maybe a little bit, but there is a point to the harpy eagle story, and I'll come back to it in a second. What that's connected to is the Global Big Day. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly what the Global Big Day is, it is an annual event organized by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and eBird. It is one 24-hour period, usually in early May, when birders all around the world come together, and in that one day, they register as many species as they can, just to see a snapshot in one day of the year of what's happening in the world of birds. It's not officially a competition, but naturally it became a little bit competitive among countries to see who could become the #1 country. Colombia has been the #1 country for the last 3 years. And the event happened 10 days ago, obviously under very different conditions to normal, because previous years people are out traveling around the country, going to hotspots, the best birders in the country, helping to increase the count of birds in Colombia. This year, we're all under very different conditions. People can't travel and they're at home. Remarkably, from their homes, their farms, their balconies, their streets, Colombian birders collectively registered over 1,400 species of bird, a remarkable number in any context. But what I really want to focus on as a number are actually the ones to the left, not the number of birds, but the number of birders, the number of people out there looking at birds. Because that's really what's testament to the growth of this passion in Colombia over the last 3 or 4 years, partly thanks to the work done by Audubon, partly thanks to the impact of films like The Birders and the outreach of local tour operators and bird guides. We see almost 2,800 e-birders on the Global Big Day in Colombia. That's the third highest total in the world. And the number that I really think is special is almost 1,000 new e-birders in Colombia that day. People who started an e-bird account just to bird on the big day. It was their first ever time submitting lists. And really what that shows is how much this hobby has grown, not just in the urban areas, but outside in the rural areas. Because without birders in rural areas of Colombia, there's no way we could reach 1,400 plus species in a day. And what this brings me on to is an image here. It's not the clearest image because it's a photo from a phone and sent by WhatsApp, but it's my favorite photo from the Global Big Day this year. It's not a bird, it's not a photo of a person birding, it's a photo taken of a handwritten list from the young man who lives on the farm where that harpy eagle nest is. If you look very closely on the one of the lists on the right-hand list, you can see number 18 written very small, harpy eagle. What that is a young man who, using the binoculars and field guide that were donated to him by local birders in the region, this is Cartagena del Chairá in Caquetá, went out on the big day in spite of having no signal and having to walk 40 minutes through the countryside to the closest place where he could get signal to send this list, and sending a photo to a friend in Florencia, Caquetá, to contribute to the Colombian list, the Global Big Day. It's a really powerful image, I think, that shows how much this hobby has grown and how much impact it can have on people, and just how much people are engaged by it. And I just want to finish briefly with this image here. These are the people I like to call the human stars of the birders, because I always say that there's a reason why the film is called The Birders and not The Birds, because really fundamentally what the films are about are a human journey. It's a story of people whose lives have been changed by this passion for birds and birding that we all share. And these are people from all walks of life. These are people from North American videographers and filmmakers to English biologists to Tucano, Arhuaco, Wayuu bird guides, campesinos, women, fathers, mothers, children, a real range of human beings. And all of them, whether it's professionally, personally, emotionally, creatively, all of them have been impacted and their lives have been changed by birds and birding. And I just want to close by saying that, yeah, exactly, that is a testament to the efforts of so many people, tens of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times around the world, and has inspired a lot of people to go out there, grab some binoculars, just use their eyes or just listen and fall in love with the world of birds. And yeah, thank you very much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Chris, Matthew, thank you very, 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 very much. And to all of you, be safe and thank you for being with us. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.